Good afternoon, families. Welcome. Muy buenas tardes, familias. Gracias por conectar con nosotros. It's a pleasure to have folks joining us today. Un placer que estén con nosotros. Vamos a comenzar momentáneamente. We're really excited about today's workshop. Nos da mucha emoción poder participar en el taller informativo que vamos a tener hoy. Y gracias por conectar. Thank you, folks, for joining us. Appreciate your participation with us. I'm going to get started shortly. Okay, here we go. So welcome to our Tech Talks and More session this afternoon. It is our great pleasure to be presenting Exploring Pumpkins with Growing Great. Gracias por conectar. Es un placer que hoy vamos a presentar Explorando Calabazas con Creciendo Maravillosamente. Continuamos. Once again, thank you for joining us. During today's session, I'd like to inform you that we will be presenting in English. We also have simultaneous translation in Spanish. To listen to this presentation in English or in Spanish, please click on the globe icon at the bottom of the screen. You will select the language of preference for you. You will engage and listen to the presentation in the language you select. Una vez más, muchas gracias por conectar hoy con nosotros. Quería informarles que durante nuestra sesión tendremos interpretación simultánea en español. Esta sesión se presentará en inglés. Usted puede escoger el lenguaje de su preferencia. Haga clic en el símbolo del mundo en la parte inferior de su pantalla. Seleccione el idioma que le gustaría escuchar. Participará y escuchará la presentación en el idioma que seleccione. Next. For today's presentation, we will all be participating in the Zoom webinar session. During the presentation, you can ask questions of our panelists. We will also have a short Q&A as time permits at the end of the session. If you look at the bottom of your screen, there is a Q&A icon. You can pose your questions there and then wait for an answer. Again, we will also be responding to some of the questions as time permits at the end of the session. So once again, welcome everybody. My name is Teresa Reguin. I am the Administrator for Parent and Community Engagement here at Local District Central. And it is my great honor to present our partners with Growing Great for this part of the presentation. Take it away, Megan.
Thank you so much, Teresa, and thank you for having us. Hello, everyone. My name is Megan, and I'm the STEM Program Director with Growing Great. I'm here with my colleague, Grace, and we are so excited to be doing a fun seasonal activity featuring some pumpkins. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide. So first, I'm going to just tell you a little bit about who we are at Growing Great and what we offer to both you and your children. So we offer activities that feature science, literacy, and also healthy and fun snacks. All of our activities can be done in both the classroom, but also at home. So today we're going to be sharing from our homes these activities for you to hopefully do in yours. Next slide. Now, we realize a really important piece of serving our students is also supporting parents and caregivers like yourselves. We're so grateful to have you with us today. And we really try to provide activities that you can engage with your child, where you can both be playing scientists in your kitchen together and learning together. I know every time I do one of these activities, I learn something new, and I hope you get to do that too today. Next slide. The last thing I'll say is that all of our STEM activities, which are science, technology, engineering, and mathematics activities, are available for free in both English and Spanish. And most of them have videos that go along with them, where educators like myself, Grace, and our colleague Maxwell, who you see on your screen here, walk through how to do the activity and interact through video format. Okay, go ahead to the next slide. So the activity we've chosen for today is our Exploring Pumpkins activity, which I will be doing with you. And after I finish that activity, we can go to the next slide. You will get to test out an amazing homemade recipe using pumpkin seeds with Miss Grace, who is the nutrition and garden education specialist with Growing Great and has an amazing recipe planned for you in her kitchen. She'll also be sharing a fun story that's appropriate for this fall season. Okay, next slide. So without further ado, let's get started with our activity. So today I am going to be doing the Exploring Pumpkins activity, where we get to be scientists and actually dissect a pumpkin and see what is inside a pumpkin and also what all those pieces inside the pumpkin do for the pumpkin. So if you want to participate with me today or at a later date, you will need a pumpkin of any type. I have 3 different types with me today, but I'll be demonstrating using my pie pumpkin, which I just got at my local grocery store. You'll also need a pumpkin carving knife, which is a special type of knife that isn't too sharp, but adults, we will still need adult help and supervision, especially with the young ones when carving the pumpkin. I have a little scoop that I'm going to use to scoop out, but if you don't have a specialty pumpkin scoop, a spoon works great as well. I got these 2 at my local grocery store as well. They're available in fall oftentimes. And the last thing you'll need is just a blank sheet of paper and a pencil or pen to write with. Okay, we can go to the next slide. So before we get started on our actual pumpkin exploration, I wanted to show this video that Miss Grace actually made, and it shows you that pumpkins, they actually grow in gardens, and farmers grew the pumpkins that we find in our stores. So when we find our pumpkins, they've been cut off the vine. We can see where they were cut. But in this video, you'll get to see some pumpkins that aren't ripe and are still on the vine. So let's go ahead and play the video and check it out. Perfect. So here we can see a really little pumpkin. It's about the size of the palm of a hand. So really small, kind of like this one. And it's still green, which gives us a clue that maybe it's not ready to pick yet. Now in the chat, put what else you notice we see here in this pumpkin patch. I noticed that there were some leaves and some vines, which we're actually going to be talking about in a minute. But if you notice anything specific, especially at the end of the video, feel free to put it in the chat. So now we can see we're actually looking underneath some of the leaves, and we see a really big green round thing. Does anyone have a guess what that could be? Type it in the chat if you have a guess what that green round thing. It actually looks a little bit like a melon to me. Ooh, we had someone who said seeds. That's a great guess. Ooh, I see someone said strawberries. There were some berries in that video growing next to our pumpkins. I see someone said a pumpkin or it looks like a squash. And so pumpkins are actually in the same family as squash. They're sort of like a cousin. So they do look really similar, especially when they're still green before they're fully grown and ready to pick. So that was a pumpkin. It hadn't ripened yet, but when it ripens, it will probably turn an orange or yellow color like we see. And then hopefully someone will be able to pick it.
Megan, someone said that it looks like a watermelon.
Yes, I love that comparison. The green color and how round and smooth it is. I first thought that it was some type of melon before I knew it was a pumpkin. So we can see lots of different things may look similar in our gardens, especially as they ripen, because often they start out smaller and green, and then as they ripen and get ready to be picked and eaten, they might change color, like our pumpkins. Okay, so now we can go ahead and minimize the PowerPoint and we'll get to our activity. Now, does anyone have a guess? Again, you can put in the chat if you have a guess. What part of the plant is a pumpkin? Think about the video we just saw. Do we think it could be the root, the leaf, the stem, or maybe the fruit part of the plant? Does anyone have a guess? Let's see. Ooh, someone said the flower. Someone said the fruit. Ooh, I see someone said the stem. These are all great guesses. Someone said it's a plant. You're exactly right. So pumpkins are actually the fruit part of a pumpkin plant. But we do see when we buy a pumpkin, maybe at our grocery store, it often still has a stem part attached to it. So this one has a long stem. This pumpkin has a really short stem. Now, something about fruits that is very special is what we find inside them. Does anyone have a guess what we find inside of fruits? If you've ever cut open an apple or an orange or even a watermelon, put in the chat, what do you find inside those fruits? Oh my gosh, I see so many people. You guys are quick. So yes, we do find seeds inside. So if you're being a scientist and you have to make a prediction of what we will find when we cut open our pumpkin, what would your guess be that we'll find? Go ahead and put that in the chat. Inside our pumpkin, what do we think? Ooh, I see more people saying seeds. And I think that that's a very good guess, because when I think about other fruits, when I cut them open, even like a squash or a watermelon, I find seeds inside. So,
Megan, someone said the pulp and veins.
those are also great guesses. So we might find some seeds, but we also might find some other things. So before we cut open our pumpkin, we're going to use our piece of paper to write down different parts of the pumpkin. Now, I pre-made one earlier just so I could show you up close, but I divided my paper into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boxes, and then I labeled them. So I have a box that shows stem, leaves, skin, pulp, like someone just said. And then I have strands and seeds. So these are 6 parts of the pumpkin that we're actually going to take a look at. And you guys are going to help me decide which box I should put which part of the pumpkin in. Okay, so I'm going to clear these 2 to the side. But I do want to start with the stem, because we notice this pumpkin has a very short stem. But my smaller pumpkin, I was actually able to cut a piece of the stem off, this little piece, so we can take a close look. Now, pumpkin stems are actually really hard. If you tap on them, they make a really hard sound, kind of like a piece of wood. So I'm going to go ahead and start by putting that one on my paper. That'll be my first piece of the pumpkin. So I'll set that right there. And then we're gonna cut our pumpkins open. So if you're joining me cutting a pumpkin open today, just a reminder that our adult helpers should be helping use the knife as we cut it open. And I'm just gonna cut in a circle around the stem. Sorry, it might get a little noisy because it sort of shakes my table when I cut. I'm gonna mute myself just so that's not. Okay, so I finished cutting. You can see I cut in a pretty neat little circle just right around the stem. Now I'm going to show you close up when I lift the lid of my pumpkin off, what we see there. So does anyone have a guess what we're looking at? What are these little white pieces dangling? Go ahead and put in the chat. I also see that someone in the chat asked if I could mention the 6 parts of the pumpkin again, and I'm going to go ahead and put those in the chat as well. So we have the stem, we have the leaves, we have the skin, pulp, strands, and seeds. Ooh, and I see I already have some awesome answers. I see that some people said seeds. I see that some people said pulp and also strands. And I think all 3 of those are exactly right. So we can see here we have some seeds. I'm going to show you close up once they're detached. Pumpkin seeds are pretty big seeds, actually. They're about the size of my fingertip. You can see 2 of them right there. Now, what do you all notice about the color of the pumpkin seed? What color do they look like to you? Ooh, I see some good descriptions in the chat. Someone said beige. Yeah, yellow and white. Yeah, they're a very light color compared to our pumpkin, right? So they're pretty easy to identify against our pumpkin pulp, which is a little bit of a darker orange color. And our strands here are even darker. Ooh, I see someone said pumpkin seeds are yummy when roasted. And if you think that, you're really gonna like Miss Grace's activity today. So now I'm just gonna take my seeds. We're gonna have a lot of seeds, I predict, in our pumpkin. It's pretty big, and I can already see that there's many seeds inside. There's the inside of our pumpkin. So I'm just gonna put a few on my paper, and then the rest I'll put in a bowl and set to the side because I'm actually planning to make this recipe Miss Grace shows us today. So I have a little bowl that I'll put to the side. So now we've found our stem, we've found our seeds. Now let's see if we can look at our pumpkin skin. So do you think the skin is on the outside of the pumpkin or the inside? Go ahead and put in the chat if you think the skin is on the outside or the inside. Ooh, someone said the outside. I also saw that someone made a prediction that there's probably more than 100 seeds in this pumpkin. And they're right. There are usually more than 100 seeds in one pumpkin. We won't count them today, but I think that's a pretty close prediction. So now I'm just going to take a little piece of the skin. You're right. Just like humans, we have skin that protects our bodies from things on the outside. Pumpkin skin also protects the fruit on the inside, our pulp, the part that we can eat, and the seeds from disease, from animals that might want to eat it. So the skin is protection for the pumpkin. Now, parents, if you want to help your students to just cut a small sample of the skin so that they can really feel it and observe. It's pretty hard and very tough. I actually think it feels tougher than my skin. and that helps protect our pumpkin. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on the skin section of my little organizer here. So next, I'm going to take a look at pulp. So I'm going to start clearing out my pumpkin to get a better look at the pulp, because the seeds and the strands are covering the walls. So as you can see, I'm just sort of taking a big scoop and seeing if I can scoop out a lot of the seeds that we find in the middle. We almost got a big pile of seeds out.
Hey, Megan.
Yeah.
We have some friends making comments in the chat saying that they have felt the skin before and it sort of felt smooth to them.
Yes, it did. I agree. My pumpkin felt very smooth. It reminded me, because of that, of like a watermelon or something, except that it was orange. Okay, wow. So here's some of the seeds that I just took out of my pumpkin. I'm going to set most to the side, but while we're looking at the seeds, I think we're going to find some strands before we get to the pulp. So here we can see the pieces inside that almost look like little strings that attach to the seeds. Those are our strands. Now, if anyone has ever felt the strand of a pumpkin, you can see them right here. What did they feel like? Go ahead and put it in the chat. If you haven't ever felt one, see if you can predict based on how it looks on the camera. What do you think it would feel like?
Megan, I think we have some friends that are actually opening a pumpkin at the same time as you, and most of them are saying that it feels slimy right now.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad to hear that I'm not the only one having fun with pumpkins this afternoon. Yeah, I would agree. I'm taking the seeds off my strands right now so I can put them on my paper, and they feel very slimy. And I saw that someone said they look kind of like hair. And I agree, they feel very soft, kind of like hair. So I'm going to go ahead and put my strands right there. I had a few seeds that fell off, so I'll add that to my seed section. And the strands made my fingers so slippery that it's hard to pick up the seeds. So if you are dissecting your own pumpkin, see after you touch the strands, when you pick up a seed, if it wants to slip out from between your fingers, because that's what I noticed, is it was hard to pick up my seeds after. Okay, so now we've cleared out most of our pumpkin. There's still a few more seeds left. I'm going to scoop out most of those just so we can get to our pulp. Now, does anyone know what we use the pulp for in a pumpkin? Any guesses? You can put them in the chat. We know our pumpkin skin helps protect. Our pumpkin strands help hold the seeds into our pumpkin. Ooh, I see someone said maybe juice. Ooh,
Someone said pastries.
Yeah, I see pastries, soup, pumpkin pie. And you're right. So for hundreds and thousands of years, actually, people have grown pumpkins to eat, just like other squashes. And that pulp part is the part that is really delicious. And when you bake it, it gets nice and soft enough to eat. So sometimes we use it in soups. Sometimes we use it in sweet things like pumpkin pie. But now I'm just going to cut out a small piece of the pulp. And I'm noticing already my pulp is a lot easier to cut through than the skin was. So we can see here, the pulp is kind of soft and flexible. And when we cook it, it becomes really yummy. I'm going to go ahead and set down my piece of pulp. So now we can sort of see, I'll clear my extra seeds out of the way. We found most of our pieces of our pumpkin just from that one pumpkin. We had our stem, we had our skin, we had our pulp, we have our strands. We can even see there's still 1 or 2 seeds attached to our strands. And then we had our seeds. Now, the only piece we didn't find on this pumpkin was leaves. And that's because we saw at the beginning, part was what was cut. And can anyone remind me in the chat, what part of the pumpkin is this that was growing? We can see on this one, it's a little longer. Does anyone remember what part? Oop, I see. Wow, we have some smart participants today. You guys are speedy. It is the stem. I see a lot of you saying stem. And so when our pumpkins are harvested and sent to the grocery store, they cut the stems short so that the pumpkin is easy to carry out, because pumpkin plants can get really, really big and long with lots of vines and leaves. But when they're in the grocery store, we don't want to have to deal with all those leaves. And so usually you see that the pumpkin stem has been cut short and doesn't have any leaves on it. But like we saw in our video at the beginning, pumpkin plants have big leaves that are bigger than my hand even. And those help to also take in sunlight and give the pumpkin plant energy to grow a fruit like this pumpkin. Okay, so the last question I have for you all is kind of a fun one. In the chat, I want you to make a prediction of how long it takes a pumpkin to grow. And if you don't have an idea, you can make a guess. That's totally okay.
Megan, can you also show us your diagram again really quick?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me see. I'm going to take the stem off just so it doesn't fall. But here's my diagram. So we have stem, we have the leaf. What I sometimes like to do when I don't have a pumpkin with leaves is I'll just take a colored pencil and draw a pumpkin leaf in this part, since my pumpkin didn't have a leaf on it still. So we have the stem, the leaves, a piece of the pumpkin skin, a piece of the pulp, and then at the bottom, we have the strands and of course our pumpkin seeds right there. Oh my gosh, I see we have a lot of guesses in the chat. We have some people think it takes a couple years. Some people think a couple weeks. So it actually takes about 90 to 120 days. So that's about 3 or 4 months. So if you think about if we planted a pumpkin seed in the spring, it would take all summer to grow and it would be ready to be carved or used to eat around now in fall. And that's usually when we plant pumpkins so that we have them ready in time for Halloween and winter when we might want to make soups or pastries with them. It looks like we had at least one person who had a perfect prediction there, and a lot of other people who were really close with their guesses. Great job, everyone. So that is all I have for you today. If you are dissecting your own pumpkin at home, be sure to save the seeds and the actual pumpkin because you can use it to make a delicious snack. Miss Grace is about to show us how we use our seeds. And after this activity, we can follow up and send the activity sheets in English and Spanish so that if you didn't have a pumpkin at home to do this activity today, you can do it sometime in the next few weeks. Okay, so thank you so much, everyone. And now if we pull the PowerPoint back up, Miss Grace also has a fun video to share before she gets started.
Hi, everyone. Can you see me? My name is Miss Grace, and welcome to my kitchen. Thank you, Miss Megan. That was a wonderful activity. It's one of my favorite activities. I wish you could do it more often throughout the year. But luckily, we are in October where we see pumpkins all over the place. So I was so happy to be doing this activity. Before we get started on our cooking demonstration, let's watch a quick video. I know some of you maybe haven't been able to go to the pumpkin patch, so hopefully you enjoy this virtual field trip to the pumpkin patch.
Hey, it's Miss Grace. It is that time of the year, my favorite time of the year, fall, and I love to visit pumpkin patches. Did you know pumpkins come in all shapes and sizes? There are many different kinds of pumpkins. There are small, big, round, and tall pumpkins. Some pumpkins have a smooth skin and some have a bumpy skin. Pumpkins are members of the squash family. Members of the squash family include zucchinis, cucumbers, gourds, and loofahs. While at the pumpkin patch, we found some loofahs, which are used for cleaning your skin. Some people think loofahs are made of a sea sponge or a dry coral, but loofahs are actually made from a gourd in the cucumber family. Did you know that it can take 80 to 120 days, depending on the variety, for a seed to grow into a ripened pumpkin? The largest pumpkin ever was 2,646 pounds in Belgium. The largest pumpkin in this country weighed 2,528 pounds, and it took more than 15 years to grow these two pumpkins. Now, let's go and find out what happens to leftover pumpkins. Well, as you might expect, goats don't miss a chance to dine on pumpkins and pumpkin seeds.
Well, it looks like a lot of you made some comments throughout that video. I hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, some of your predictions were correct. It takes about 80 to 120 days for a pumpkin to grow, depending on the variety. And you probably saw that it took 15 years for those huge pumpkins to grow. Can you imagine growing a pumpkin for 15 years? Wow, that is amazing, right? Okay, so you probably want to get started on this cooking demonstration. Today, we are going to learn how or what to do with our seeds. As you know, and as Megan told you, there are pumpkin seeds in a pumpkin. So here we have some toasted pumpkins. Can you all see that? I made these earlier, and this is what you're going to make today, okay? So let's get started. Okay, I hope you can all see me here. Remember, when you when you're using a tool like a carving pumpkin knife, always have the help of an adult, okay? So for this activity or this cooking demonstration, if you are going to participate with me, and I hope you will because it sounded like some of you had your pumpkins, don't throw anything out yet, okay? So, because I'm going to tell you different things that we can do with our pumpkin. So here, you're going to, for this cooking demonstration, you're going to need strainers, okay? You're also going to need a bowl, kind of like this. And you're going to need cold water, that's I have here. You're going to need a pumpkin, okay? And like I said, you're going to need a pumpkin carver, and then just a few scoops. Okay, that's what you're going to need. And you can use any type of pumpkin. All pumpkins are edible, but the bigger the pumpkin is, the better it is to carve if you're going to use it for carving. It also has, the bigger pumpkins also have lower content sugar. So that's the good thing about using these larger pumpkins, okay? These pumpkins, you can also use, and I will talk about it a little bit more throughout our cooking demonstration, but you can use these bigger pumpkins to make soups, muffins, or breads, okay? And then I also have these other pumpkins that I grabbed at the pumpkin patch, like this Cinderella pumpkin. Isn't that a cool pumpkin? I love this one. This one's a little bit more difficult to carve, so we won't be using that one. And then check out this pumpkin. Look at the way it grew. Kind of looks like a starfish, don't you think? Yeah, look at that. And then we have this pretty white pumpkin. This is one of my favorite ones. Just wanted to share some of the pumpkins. But again, we're going to use the bigger pumpkins, okay? So one thing you need to remember is never use a carved pumpkin for cooking, okay? Once you've carved the pumpkin, put some eyes on it and carved it and put it outside, you don't want to bring it back inside and reuse it, okay? You want to take everything out before you carve it. So let's get started. So again, please make sure you get help from an adult when carving your pumpkin. So I'm going to go ahead and carve my pumpkin. I'm sure some of you already have carved your pumpkin because you participated in Miss Megan's activity. So you're just gonna have to wait a few seconds. Okay, but while you're waiting, you can go gather all the supplies that you need if you don't have it with you, okay? Or you can take the computer into your kitchen. Okay, so the next thing I want to do, I should have done this first, is wash my hands. I already did, but I just want to remind you all to wash your hands. It's very important, okay? Since we're going to be eating some of the stuff that's inside. Okay, so now that we've carved our pumpkin, the next thing you want to do is you want to heat the oven to 350. So let's go ahead and heat the oven. Let me make sure there's nothing in there. There's nothing in there. Okay, so my oven is heating. So while that is heating, we'll go ahead and move these pumpkin seeds right over here. Okay, and the next thing you want to do is you want to grab a cookie tray and some parchment paper. This is parchment paper. Can you all see that? We're going to use parchment paper. You're going to line your cookie tray with parchment paper, okay? Just like this. Okay, so there's our cookie tray with parchment paper, just like this, okay? And I'm gonna set it over here on the side. Okay, you're also going to need 2 teaspoons of salt. So I have my salt ready. You're gonna need some oil. You're gonna need 2 teaspoons as well. And then you can use any type of seasoning that you like. I'm gonna add some cayenne pepper. This is what I have in my pantry. Again, you can use any of your favorite seasonings. You can use curry powder, chili powder, or just even salt, whatever you like, okay? Make this your own, whatever it is that you like, okay? So I'm gonna set that to the side. And the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take some water, we're gonna take a medium saucepan, and you're gonna add some water, okay? You can add like 2 cups of water.
Miss Grace, I had a question. If people don't have parchment paper, can they oil the cookie sheet and cook it directly on the cookie sheet?
Yes, they can.
Okay.
Thank you, Miss Megan. Okay, so when I add some water into my saucepan, I'm gonna go ahead and put it on my stove top. And I'm gonna turn on my stove top so that the water can start heating, okay? We want some hot water. And then you're gonna take your salt and you're gonna put 2 teaspoons of salt in the water that's boiling, okay? I don't know if you can see my saucepan right here. Maybe I need to move my screen a little bit. So you're gonna add some salt, okay? So I've added my salt. just gonna take a spoon and just kind of stir it a little bit. Okay? So you want to add your water and your salt, and you want to heat up the water and that's in your saucepan, okay? Okay, now we're ready, I think, for the fun part, okay? So meanwhile, you want to scoop out any seeds from your pumpkin. And I like to use like some like paper bags or whatever, some kind of paper that you can use or that you have at home so that you don't really make a mess. What I did was I took a grocery bag, I cut it up, and then I just laid it flat as a table mat right here. This is going to be my working space, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to add some cold water into a bowl. Okay, I think that's good enough. So I'm just going to set it right here. So now you want to scoop out all of your pumpkin seeds. Look at all those pumpkin seeds. See all these pumpkin seeds? And then you're just going to drop them into the cold water, okay? Just like this. Putting them in cold water is going to separate some of that strand on the, it's going to separate the seeds from the strand, okay? So just like that. Scoop some more. Wow, I have lots of seed in this one. Looks like I have like almost 100, maybe even more than 100 seeds in here. Does anyone have any questions so far? Is anyone doing this activity at home? If you're not doing the cooking demonstration right now, no worries. You can always just take notes and do this later. In the PowerPoint presentation that Miss Megan had earlier, we have the recipe on there, I believe. So you can always go back to the recipe.
Yeah, after this presentation, we will share the recipe and the activity part that I did so that if you couldn't do it today, you can do it another day.
Yeah, and I believe we're also recording it on YouTube. So it'll be on there as well. Wow, there are so many seeds in this pumpkin.
Miss Grace, we do have a question. Someone asked how many teaspoons. I think they mean of salt.
Of salt. 2 teaspoons of salt. And you're going to boil it for 5 minutes, okay? I think it's only been like 3 minutes. We have like 2 more minutes. I forgot to tell Google to set the timer, but it's okay. I looked at the clock. So we have about 2 more minutes. When it's 4:16, we will, 4:15, we will add our seeds to the boiling water. Okay. Trying to get all these seeds out. 1 more seed stuck in there. Okay. So there we go. We have our seeds. So we have our seeds in our bowl, just like this. Okay. Now you just want to swish them. Swish them around. Okay, just like this. Once you do that, you want to get the strainer and then just strain your seeds in the strainer, okay? And then I also like to squish them again and pull out all of the strands that is left in there. You'll notice that it's really easy. It kind of just falls apart or it falls away from the seeds. Okay, just like this. Okay. Once we do that, You want to add your seeds into your medium saucepan that has your salt, okay? Google, set the alarm for 5 minutes. And again, let's cook that for 5 minutes, okay? So now we need to wait, but it's okay because I have a story for you while we wait, okay? Let's take a quick break. If you want, you can stand up. You can stand up while we're reading this story. You can also read along with me. Okay, let me just share my screen because we are going to read a story about pumpkins. Can you all see my screen? Okay. Megan, does that look okay?
Yes, that looks great. We can see it.
Great. Okay. So this book is called Apple and Pumpkins. Okay, by Anne Rockwell. Pictures by Lizzie Rockwell. When red and yellow leaves are on trees, we go to the Comstock farm to pick apples and pumpkins. Mr. Comstock gives us a bushel basket to put our apples in. Geese and chickens and a big fat turkey walk with us on our way to the orchard where the apples grow. Hey, this is kind of like the pumpkin patch that I went to last weekend. I saw chickens and I saw goats. And as you can see in the video, you saw the goats that were there. My father picks apples. My mother does too. I climb into a little apple tree and pick the reddest apples of all. When our basket is full of red and shiny apples, we go to the field where the pumpkins grow. I look and look until I find the best pumpkin of them all. My father cuts it from the vine. I carry it back to the car. At home, we carve a jack-o'-lantern face on our big orange pumpkin. We put a candle inside and light it. Now our pumpkin looks scary and funny too. On Halloween night, we put our pumpkins on the doorstep. My mother gives away lots of our red and shiny apples for trick or treat. While I go trick or treating up and down our street. That's the end of that story. Okay, let me stop sharing and see how much time we have. Oops. I think that's about 5 minutes. So let's check out our pumpkin seeds. Let's stir them just a little bit more. I think we need 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes, okay? Let's wait 2 more minutes. While we're waiting 2 more minutes, oh, someone wants to share their screen. Okay. Oh, let me share my screen again, sorry. While we're waiting for that, I just want to share something. We're kind of looking at what we can do with our seeds, okay? But do you think that there are other things we can make with our pumpkins? What do you think? Does anyone know what we can do? You can write it in the chat.
I know some people said earlier, Miss Grace, someone mentioned making pastries with pumpkin in them.
Yeah, you can make pastries. Did you know that you can use the entire pumpkin to make something? I went online because I was thinking of different things that my family and I used to make when we were kids. This is one of my favorite things that I used to make with my grandma. Can you guys see this? The sweet pumpkin dessert?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so I know that earlier, I think it was Babina Hernandez. She actually also stated that she makes this dessert at home with her family. So yeah, this is one of the things that I like to make with my families. In Spanish, it's called calabaza en pacha. So what it is this thick, sweet syrup. Some people put different sugar in it, like brown sugar, or some people put, in Spanish, it's called piloncillo, and it's like a hard candy, and once it melts, it gets really soft and it's very syrupy. So this is something my grandma used to make for us, and it was really good. So this would be a perfect thing to make with your own pumpkins at home. You can use the entire thing, and the entire thing will not go to waste, okay? Let me show you another thing that I like to make. Here, I like to make in my home pumpkin scones. These are one of my favorite things and traditions to make here at home with my family, okay? And then, as many of you mentioned, we can also make pumpkin pies, right? During this time of the year, you see so many different pumpkin pies. So what you can do, like Ms. Fagan said earlier, is you can use the pulp right here, the meat, and you can puree it and make pumpkin pie, okay? And I have two more for you. This is also one of my favorites. I love to make these with my dad. He makes the best pumpkin empanadas ever. I'm still trying to get him to share. He has shared the recipe with me, but I mean, it's a little hard to make these. I still don't quite get it, but this is something that I hope I will master soon. So this is something else you can also make with the pumpkin meat that's right here, okay? So like I said, the pumpkin doesn't have to go to waste. You can use the entire thing if you want, even the seeds, and we're learning what we can do with the seeds, okay? So let me stop sharing.
Miss Grace, we had a lot of people in the chat saying they're very excited that pumpkin empanadas exist. One person even said, "Why has nobody told me?"
Oh my gosh, pumpkin empanadas are the best. All you do is make, like I said, the meat puree, and then you just stuff this little flour, I don't know, kind of looks like a taco, and you stuff it with the pumpkin puree, and it's the best thing ever. It's like a good breakfast snack too. So that's one of my favorites. I think our seeds are actually ready. So again, please, this is going to be very, very hot. So if you're doing this, please ask a parent for help. So what you're going to want to do is turn off the heat, and you're going to strain your pumpkin seeds again, okay? See how hot that is? And you see, you don't really see any of those strands anymore. So I'm just going to go ahead and pour it into the strain. I'm going to put this over here. Okay, I'm going to move this pumpkin over to the side. Got lots of pumpkins up here. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to take your cookie tray and your parchment paper. And again, you don't have to use parchment paper. Okay, you can just, I use it just because I have it. Sometimes it's less of a mess and less of washing that I have to do. So, oops, I skipped one part before this. You're going to take your washcloth, okay? I have a washcloth here. And what you're going to want to do is lay all of your pumpkin seeds on the washcloth, just like that. You see, there's hardly any of the pumpkin strands. It's so crazy how they just disappears. I'm not exactly sure what happens to it, but there's no pumpkin strands there. So what you want to do, be careful because it's hot. So what you want to do is dry those pumpkin seeds, okay? Dry them as much as you can. Just like that. If you don't dry them, they won't get crispy, okay? So you want to dry them. Okay, so I think that is pretty good. So now we can get our cookie sheet with our parchment paper. And those of you, if you're not using the parchment paper, it's okay. You're just gonna dump your seeds onto your parchment paper, just like that. Okay, and then again, you're gonna wanna scatter your pumpkin seeds. And it's gonna be a single layer, okay? Make sure it's a single layer because you want all of those pumpkin seeds to cook. Just like that. Okay, so, and again, if you don't have parchment paper, it's okay because you're gonna add some oil. You're gonna add 2 teaspoons of oil. I am going to use olive oil. You can use coconut oil or even nut oil or walnut oil. Whatever kind of oil you have at home is good. So I'm just gonna spread it just like this. So if you're not using parchment paper, it's okay because you're gonna add the oil on top, so it's not gonna stick. You're just gonna spread them a little bit, just like that. Okay. Now I'm going to add cayenne pepper just because I like things spicy, and this is just a seasoning that I had at home that I thought would go great with pumpkin seeds. And then you're just gonna sprinkle as much as you want or as little as you want. We already boiled it in salt, but I mean, maybe if you want to add some sea salt on top, you can. So I think that's it. So you're gonna put this in the oven. The oven's already been heated, so we're just gonna kind of toss it in there. I am going to start with 15 minutes. Everyone's oven is different, but you want to cook them between 15 to 25 minutes, okay? Hey, Google, set the alarm for 15 minutes. And again, it depends, the amount of time that you're going to cook the seeds depends on your oven. Some ovens don't get as hot. Mine doesn't get as hot, so it probably needs, I think earlier when I cooked them, it took about 20 minutes. Some ovens get really, really hot. And then it all just depends on how crispy you want them. So I hope you enjoyed that. These are gonna cook in there, but I made some this morning so that you can take a look and see. So we don't have to wait the 25 minutes, but these are the pumpkin seeds. Can you see that? These are the pumpkin seeds that I made this morning, and they are so delicious. And I don't know if you can hear them, but they're really crunchy. And you can see some of the cayenne pepper and some of the olive oil. I hope you enjoyed that. And then there's something else that I made because I didn't want the pumpkin to go to waste. So I used the seeds, and then I also used the meat of the pumpkin inside to make puree. And I made some delicious pumpkin bread. Look at that. I wish you were all here to share it with me. I hope you enjoyed that lesson. Does anyone have any questions for me? Any questions, Miss Megan? I guess I should open up the chat. I can't see.
None yet. I just said that pumpkin loaf looks so beautiful.
Yeah.
Looks like it belongs in a cookbook.
Yeah, I wanted to try some, but I was like, no, I cannot taste it and leave like, a little slice there.
Ooh,
Then
Miss,
you guys would know. Yes.
we do have a question. Someone asked, how do pumpkins grow?
How do pumpkins grow? Okay, that's a great question. So which a pumpkin, as we all know, has seeds in it, right? So if you don't want to cook all of your seeds in the oven, save some seeds on the side, because what you can do is get a recycled container, any kind of container, a milk carton, a plastic bottle, or an old pot that your parents may not be using. So what you're going to do is take some soil, and you're going to take your pot. You're going to put the soil in your pot, and then you're going to add a couple of seeds around the pot, and you're going to cover it, cover them, pat them, make a home for them in the pot, and you're going to add water. You're going to give them some sunshine, and hopefully your seeds will begin to sprout. Now remember, it takes a long time for pumpkin seeds to grow, so don't give up, okay? So once it starts growing, you're going to see it sprouting. So pumpkins get very, very big. So once it starts sprouting, you're going to have to transplant it into a bigger container or into the ground so that it'll have space to grow, just like the video that Miss Megan showed you. Okay? But you always have to remember, you have to water it, make sure it has soil, make sure it has enough sunshine. But do you think you can grow a pumpkin right now? Anyone know? No, yeah, you're right. We cannot grow a pumpkin right now because it's not that time of the season. But you can save your seeds, and then in June, next June, when June comes around, you can plant those seeds. And if you plant the seeds and they get enough water and nutrients and sunshine, your pumpkin seeds will grow, and you'll have a pumpkin by the end of September or beginning of October. Okay, I hope that answered your question. Anyone else? Yes.
I did have one other question, and it was just how do pumpkins grow in different colors? Like the pumpkins you had different varieties.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so maybe Miss Megan, you can help me with this one. But like we mentioned earlier, there are different varieties. There are different kinds of pumpkins, like the Cinderella pumpkins, the jack-o'-lantern pumpkins, the big jacks, the big boys. Those are called varieties. So if you want to plant a different variety, you can go to your nursery store, and they have special seeds that have different colors. So, or, if I wanted to go to a pumpkin patch and maybe they have like the Cinderella, I can take out the Cinderella seeds and then grow them. But most of the seeds, if you don't have this type of pumpkin and you want to grow the big ones or the different color ones, you can go to the nursery and do the same thing. Plant the seed, feed it, give it water, give it sunshine, and it'll grow for you. Miss Megan, did you want to add anything?
All I was going to say is if you see a type of pumpkin that you want to grow, the seeds inside that pumpkin will only grow that type of pumpkin. So the seeds inside my tiger pumpkin here will grow tiger pumpkins. And the seeds I took out of my pie pumpkin will grow pie pumpkins. So each seed grows the same type of pumpkin that it came from. That's a great question.
Yeah, that is.
And I see another one. Someone asked, does it take a few months to grow?
Why does it take a few months?
Oh, why? I didn't even.
That is a good question. Everything just needs time, and we just have to be patient. If we want to grow some lettuce, that's probably easier to grow, and you don't need to wait that long. But whenever you have a bigger fruit, it's going to take longer, and we have to be patient. And don't give up if it doesn't grow the first time. Keep at it. Miss Megan, do you have anything to add?
No, I think that's a great explanation. The plant has to take in lots of sun energy for many months to grow something this big, because this takes a lot of energy.
Yep. Well, that is it for us. Thank you for joining us. We had such a great time. We hope that you had a great time. Feel free to send us any questions, or if you are interested in more of our activities, you can email us at, you can email Megan. She can send you some of those activities, or you can go online and look for Growing Great at www.growinggreat and find some more of our awesome and fun and nutritious activities.
And I put my email in the chat right there. And like I said before, we'll follow up with the activity sheets so that you have those too.
I think that's it, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate that amazing presentation. We are live on YouTube still, so I know that many of our families are going to be coming back to it. We'll also put it on Twitter to make sure that people join us. We love always when you're here with us with Growing Great. We really appreciate it. And you left us with this here on this slide with the recipe for what we need. So parents, if you want to take a picture of it before I change the slide, you can also do a snip cut or a screenshot, or just come back to our YouTube channel at Local District Central. I've dropped it on the chat. And then we're just going to end with, let me see, here we go. I'm not sure if we're doing that today, but I know that Growing Great does a lot of work around supporting our families and joining us with book giveaways. So connect with Growing Great, continue to support them and participate alongside with them. Additional resources. And we've done our question and answer session. Here's where to find us. If anyone wants to connect with the parent and community engagement team, here's our information. We have community schools and our coaches, our amazing coaches that are behind the scenes supporting and getting these amazing presentations for us. And with that, we're going to close. I thank our team, Megan and Grace. You are amazing. Always a pleasure to have you. And I certainly invite you to come back and share more of these amazing spaces with us of learning. Have a great day, everybody. And if you want to see it again, tell your friends, go to YouTube, and you'll be able to see this presentation and walk through it with your family.
And
Thanks,
really quick,
everybody. Yes.
if anybody is interested, we are doing the book giveaway. So if you're interested, please email Megan. We're doing a book giveaway for all our families that participated today. Thank you so much.
And my email is going back in the chat again, just in case it got lost in there. And if you send me an email, I will take care of getting you one of these great books. Thanks so much, everyone.
Awesome, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, partners. Have a great day, everybody.